Can you believe it? Back to episode 1 again.
Well, you have to give us more context. And now the listeners are going to be very confused. What does that mean? Episode 1 again.
Well, this is the beginning of series 2.
Yeah.
We decided that once we got to 20 episodes, that we'd go back and do series 2.
Start from 1. Yeah.
Back to episode 1. So maybe we should tell our listener
the one listener.
a few things about how we have talked about the format and how the first series went.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe just a few little changes that we thought we'd make.
Mm-hmm.
And then if anybody wants to give us feedback before we get too deep into series 2, then they can do.
That would be great, yeah.
So what are we changing here?
So from the feedback that we have been collecting, I know personally a few people who are not podcast listeners, and they are listening to podcasts, especially for us, which is such a privilege. It's so kind, and they are really listening, and we have some really loyal listeners who listen to every episode, and I cannot say how grateful we are to these people.
I have two ways of thinking about that. Either I'm really, really grateful, or I'm thinking, get a life. Honestly, no, it is really... It's
terrible, Tony.
It's so kind and it's such a privilege.
Don't you have podcasts
nice.
that you're loyal to and you listen to every episode?
I do.
So there we go.
I do.
So thank you so much to those who listen to all of them. And listening to your feedback, we've decided that you have loved the poems that we have been reading. You have enjoyed the conversations, the little jokes that Mr. Bailey over here makes. So those have been enjoyable. I think the only thing that I've heard from people that they would like us to change is maybe the length of the episode.
Yes.
So when it goes to 110, 120 minutes, then people are like, okay, that's a bit too long.
That's just too much of Mr. Bailey.
That's too much of Mr. Bailey.
Yeah,
exactly.
I can understand that. So... we're going to set out to try and make these episodes just a little bit shorter. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go for let's see if we can do it in 45 to 50 minutes.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so we've decided that since we are trying to make them a little bit shorter, that our scope should be a little bit narrower as well in each episode.
Yeah.
So instead of...
I found this really difficult when we've done a topic like... grief or food.
Exactly.
How can you do justice to that in, even in an hour and 20 minutes? Sometimes I felt like we needed whole series.
Most of the time we felt like we would finish recording and we would go like, gosh, there were so many nice things that I wanted to include and say, but we didn't have time for them. Yeah. So we've decided to go micro instead of macro.
Yes.
So instead of saying something like a huge topic like food, like last time we talked about bananas, there was a good chunk of time.
A chunk of banana time. That's what you need.
Yeah. And so
we unpeeled every aspect of it.
Oh, nice.
See?
Yeah. And so we decided that next time we could talk about bananas instead of food in general. And then, and this way we will last longer because we have smaller topics to talk about.
And also, in terms of our research, it does change the style of research a little bit when the topic is a lot more focused.
Yeah.
Because again, if you're researching a topic like those really wide ones like food, there are so many avenues that you can go.
Yeah.
That it ends up being, a whole week of... I've just got to keep researching because you're digging bigger and bigger holes and going down all sorts of
rabbit holes.
Avenues. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
So in terms of the research process, it changes that a little bit.
And that kind of answers a question that we got from one of our best listeners, our most loyal listeners.
There's no best listener; they're all fab.
They're all amazing. Yes, no, but I mean in terms of loyalty.
Yes.
We have to give her a shout out, Miss Baumgartner.
Do we give prizes for loyalty? Yes.
So Miss Baumgartner, Katarina has been listening to every single episode, mostly on the day, and we are so grateful. And she asked us what is our process. So now we've explained part of our process.
Do you have a process?
I do. So what we do is we decide on a topic. We write a document where we have all of the questions, kind of like a PYP unit introduction. We write all of the questions down, and then we try to go and do our own research, and then we come back. We talk about it, and we exchange. So a lot of the conversations that happen, actually most of the conversations that happen, are completely new, are completely original, like unrehearsed.
Yes.
So
I was going to say, you make it sound like we're very well drilled down. We have a process.
Not at all.
I do some research, honestly, and then we turn up to do the podcast
Exactly.
and it goes all over the place.
Exactly.
Because actually we're just having a chat.
Exactly.
Which is probably the best thing.
I think so too. I think it makes it natural. Now, none of this is rehearsed. All of it is very genuine, and it's really so much fun. We wish you could join us.
Yes.
But in a way, you are joining us.
You are joining us.
Yeah. Cool.
So let's do it.
Let's do this.
Let's do series 2 and let's see how we get on.
So episode
Are
1.
we going to do an episode on bananas? I think we should.
We should have one on bananas, actually. So today's episode is about shoes.
Wow, nice pair of shoes there, Rama. Have you got some new sneakers?
Yes, actually. I have decided that, I don't know if this is, I've been noticing this trend lately, that even though I'm a big fan of dresses, I like my dresses, I still pair them with sneakers rather than with like dressy shoes. So it's a mix of, what would that be called? Casual chic?
Casual chic? I don't know, but it is something that is definitely a feature of the last, I don't know, 10 years or something like that.
I've seen women get married in sneakers, like having their wedding.
How vulgar.
Well,
so they can make a run for it, I guess. Maybe I should have worn track shoes or something with studs on the bottom.
the runaway groom.
I was in London.
Yeah.
Gosh, we're getting stuck in straight away. I was in London recently and walking around the centre of the city of London, where I used to work. And to be honest, I was a little bit horrified because there's all of these people. Firstly, they're not dressed in work suits in quite the way they... I mean, when I used to work, everybody wore a suit and a shirt and tie. But I was particularly taken by the footwear.
Yeah.
Nobody's wearing... I used to wear these beautiful Oxford brogues, black leather, beautifully shined, or my black slip-on leather shoes. And women always
Wore
heels or nice shoes. Because it was always seen as a mark of your kind of seniority and how seriously you were taken by what you were wearing as a suit, but especially what you wore as footwear. If you turned up for work in, some really badly worn, scuffed, dirty shoes, it was seen as disrespectful. You were expected to have, beautifully shiny, expensive, or at least leather shoes. You wouldn't, but now seeing everybody's walking around the city in their sneakers, and I, on the one hand.
You're celebrating their...
I get it. I celebrate the fact we're looking after our feet.
For comfort, exactly.
It's comfort. It's hard walking the streets of the city. But on the other hand, it's like a whole tradition has disappeared.
I mean, it seems like this is a real trend that's happening in the world. Like, if you look at the nice dresses that they used to wear in the 50s and the 40s, maybe, I don't know if they were able to wear these nice puffy dresses and all of that.
Lovely.
They were so gorgeous, and a pair of like heels and stuff. And since then, we have become so casual in what we wear.
Yeah, I mean, I've got, I think I told you, I've got a wardrobe at home that is full of shirts with collars and suits.
Yeah, and you don't wear those anymore.
Never. Unless somebody's getting married.
Yeah.
Or it's graduation.
Graduation party, exactly. And so, we have moved away from very formal, really actually pretty clothes, and we wear very informal, kind of casual, and it's, in a way, it's a shame. Yes, I do like that people are getting comfortable and they're not focusing so much on the outside, but there was some kind of beauty to be seen, in the kind of clothes, the kind of attention, the kind of detail that went into making those clothes.
Well, I was always told, I used to do a lot of interviewing for jobs. Not myself. Well, I did.
Getting fired.
I was getting fired all the time. No, I was interviewing people for jobs. And I was told one of the first things to do when somebody walks in the room is look at their shoes.
Yeah.
Because their shoes, how clean they are, how well looked after they are, what style of shoe, is a statement about that person.
Yeah.
So these days, that would be
You would
quite
not do
difficult
that.
to do, wouldn't
No.
it, I suppose?
No. I mean, you're lucky if they're wearing shoes at all. Because now with this trend of people walking barefoot everywhere as well.
Oh my goodness, that's, yeah.
I found a few studies on that. It's like, it is not good for you.
Yeah.
It is really not good because you risk cutting your feet on, all kinds of things with bacteria and germs and fungus and all of the things that you risk catching by walking barefoot. Why would you want to do that?
Yeah, exactly. I'm not a fan of that. What was the name of the French guy who invented the open-toed sandal?
Flip-flop.
Philippe Fallope.
I was so close.
That's very good. Philippe Fallope. Yeah. I did a bit of research on global trends in the footwear industry.
Yeah.
So if I say there are 4 different categories of shoe: athletic footwear, leather footwear, sneakers, and textile and other footwear, which is, I guess, where the flip-flops and the canvas sandals would sort of come. What do you think the total amount of revenue per year is spent on shoes?
Generated from making shoes.
Yeah, selling shoes across the world.
And that's all shoes. All
shoes, yeah.
No, I'm going to make a mistake, of course.
It's an incredibly difficult one. I don't expect you to get it right.
A few billion?
It's more than a few. It's nearly $500 billion spent on shoes globally every year. And of that, which of the 4 segments that I said do you think counts for most of the shoe sales?
So I was thinking, you would think maybe it's the expensive brands, but it's not. I don't think it's like what are they? I don't even know the names, like Jimmy Choos and all of those shoes.
Jimmy Choos, they're
no, but it's sneakers,
high.
Isn't it?
It's not sneakers. I thought it was going to be sneakers now. Sneakers is growing and growing as a category, but it's not the highest sector is textile and other footwear, so sort of canvas, sort of espadrilles, that kind of stuff. I guess because in either less developed countries or very warm countries, then those kind of...
They're not relying heavily on sneakers.
Whereas the good old leather footwear is not a growing sector. So your traditional shoes, there is a slightly less of a market for that. And of course, the sportswear, athletic footwear, is a growing
market
segment. Yeah, so that's quite interesting. Luxury or non-luxury?
Non-luxury, I would say.
So 92% of the revenue is spent on non-luxury shoes. So the Jimmy Choo market is relatively
limited.
Small.
Yeah, I mean, who can afford shoes like that? I don't even know how much they cost.
Yeah, why would you do that? Sustainable footwear over the last 15 years.
So what is that?
I guess it's that you can recycle and reuse and last forever sort of thing. What is it? I don't know there isn't a definition here. But it's still only 6.7% of the market, the global market. That means
that's not much.
93% of the shoes are going to be thrown away at the end. Which
on top of the pile that we don't know what to do with all the used clothes.
Yeah. The brand that accounts for, if you take all brands of shoes, which brand do you think has got the largest share of the global shoe market or footwear market?
Is it Nike?
It is Nike, 7%. They're all the sportswear brands. Yeah. Because within the sportswear segment, there are only 4 or 5 major brands competing. Okay. Whereas amongst leather shoes, there are lots and lots
and lots of smaller brands.
So Nike's got 7% of the world footwear market.
So are these Nike, Adidas, Puma? What's the fourth one then?
So the first one's Nike. Adidas got 3%. Jordan, which is part of Nike actually, has 3% on its own. Skechers, okay. 2%. And then the other ones that you can actually account for, Aldo, New Balance, Uggs. Got some Uggs boots, yeah. Under Armour and Vans. But then all the rest are just in a large section of their own.
Okay.
So quite interesting. And we could keep going with stats, but we won't. But you could do this for every country, and you'd see that, the trends are slightly different. So if you took a look at Germany, you'll find their trends are slightly different from the global ones, for example. So
Birkenstock.
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at the brands there, Birkenstock, I think it is one of them.
It has to be.
Let's have a look, see if I can find that for you. So yeah, in Germany, you were right, Birkenstock is one of them. But Nike, unbelievably, I thought Nike would be the US market.
I think it's global.
Yeah, actually 12% of the shoes sold in Germany are made by Nike, with another 3% Jordans. That's 15%.
That's insane.
That's one in every 6.5 pairs of shoes.
That's really, really interesting.
Adidas 7%. Birkenstock, good old German, 2%. There you go. But all of the sportswear marks that you can think of are in there.
Okay, cool. Who do you think has more shoes, you or me?
Ooh. If we just go with gender stereotypes, then I can think of you as a sort of Imelda Marcos figure with 300 pairs of shoes in your wardrobe.
Do I strike you as a shoe person?
I think you are a shoe person, but I don't think you're quite Imelda Marcos.
No, I'm not really a shoe person. I have a few pairs of shoes that I've accumulated over the years, but I'm not really into shoes or bags.
So go on, how many pairs of shoes do you think you've got approximately?
So approximately maybe under 20.
Under 20. So I'm probably...
You might you might have more than me.
For a guy, I think I've got quite a lot of pairs of shoes.
Yeah.
That's because I find it difficult to get rid of pairs of shoes unless they are completely run into the ground.
Yeah.
So I've still got my work shoes from 20 years ago.
Okay.
My leather shoes, they're perfect condition.
If they're good.
Had them resold.
Yeah.
They're
you had them
fine.
resold. I love that.
Well, that's what you used to do.
I love that people used to take care of things instead of
They didn't have a rubber sole. They used to have leather soles.
Yeah.
Which was really good, except when it was really wet and then your feet got wet.
Slippery.
Yeah.
Oh, but they were slippery too, right?
A little bit slippery too,
yeah.
But yeah, and I've got quite a few pairs of sports shoes.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're probably about the same.
Maybe, yeah.
How much would you pay for a pair of shoes?
That's a good question. So when I was younger, I would not pay more than 40, 50, actually, ever.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting to a point where my feet are actually a problematic area because they don't conform to the way you want them to be. They're a bit higher, they're a bit
many years
wider.
of foot binding when you were smaller.
No, we didn't do that in Syria, only in China.
Sorry, we'll talk about it in a second.
We'll talk about that. No, but they're interesting. So I think now I would be willing to invest in shoes, but even in saying that, more than 90 or 100 euros would really hurt my heart.
Yeah, I mean, we're in exactly the same boat here. I learned through the hard way that you cannot
skimp on shoes.
You can't skimp on shoes because whereas a t-shirt can be a bit scraggy and horrible, your shoes, you feel it if you buy bad fitting shoes or poor quality ones. I would never buy shoes that were not leather because they really, my feet stink and sweat. It's really horrible. I don't go for the cheap shoe unless it's a real bargain leather shoe.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, like you say, I would never go and buy a designer shoe because of the, I mean, what is this? Why would you pay millions for a pair of Nike Jordans?
Yeah, because they have that name on them.
Yeah, it's not just a shoe then, is it?
No, it's not. It's status. You're buying yourself some status.
Imelda Marcos, incidentally, said, "They went into my closets looking for skeletons, but thank God, all they found were shoes, beautiful shoes." And it's interesting, isn't it? Because when I think of Imelda Marcos as a political figure, she was there was supposedly, lots of very bad things she did as a political leader. But what she became most known for was the thousands of pairs of shoes they found when they raided her home and such like. So it was quite interesting. Another great quote, I think I've said this to you before, Christian
Louboutin,
not Alain Louboutin,
no.
said, "A naked woman in heels is a beautiful thing. A naked man in shoes looks like a fool." And I think when we talk about shoes, I think how we portray shoes, what shoes are for, there are really two polar opposites, aren't there?
Definitely.
Woman's beauty is enhanced by her shoes.
Yeah, I mean, she wears heels to elongate her legs, to add to, the whole outfit. And women will take so much pain from their shoes just to look pretty.
Yeah.
So it's like, a naked woman in high heels is a beautiful thing. But
yeah. I mean, tell me, I've never worn high heel shoes, or at least, I'll tell you.
No platforms.
I'll tell you about those in a minute. But, those sort of stiletto heels, you see women tottering around, or the weather's bad and they're still wearing these beautiful high heel shoes. They must be incredibly uncomfortable to wear.
Can I tell you a secret?
Yeah.
I have never worn stilettos.
Yeah.
I don't know how to. I would not be able to walk in them. I've worn wedges, but they're supported throughout the whole foot.
Yeah.
I do like heels, but not in stilettos. I would not be able to walk in them.
They look incredibly.
They look really dangerous to me.
Yeah.
They. I don't know. I've heard a few people, hurt their ankles because of these shoes. It's not worth it to me. But they do look amazing.
I remember being by the coast in, I think it was in Croatia, and going down this rocky path down to the sea to look at some caves. And I'm there in my sort of walking boots type thing. And coming up the path, having just been down to this cave, is this beautiful woman in a lovely dress and high-heeled shoes, like stilettos. Like,
wow.
How did you get down there?
That's a lot of skill. How did you make it there in one piece and back up?
Unbelievable.
That's some skill.
Yeah. Shoes are amazing, aren't they? Have you noticed that shoes crop up so much given that this is about words that make us, shoes
appear.
So, you're as comfortable as an old shoe. You're as tough as an old shoe. You are walking in dead men's shoes. Don't judge someone till you've walked a mile in their shoes. Now the shoe's on the other foot, if the shoe fits.
Waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah. What else have we got? Mama needs a new pair of shoes. Why do you think it is such a common idiom?
I think maybe
Goody two shoes.
Yeah. Maybe it could be because the whole metaphor of us going through life, walking through life.
Yeah.
So maybe that's how it's related to shoes. It's like if you walk through life, you go through life, you need shoes to carry you, and maybe that's where it comes from.
Yeah, and being comfortable in old shoes rather than new ones that don't fit is kind of a very good analogy of being comfortable in yourself
replacing something that is no longer working for you.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, there's a few there that I have used. I think the one about being in dead men's shoes was one that I used a lot when I was working in a career where I wanted to progress.
Yeah.
You'd always move on
if
you felt you were in dead men's shoes. Dead men's shoes meaning the person above you're going to have to wait till they die before they leave, was the sort of reason. So I quite like that one.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
How old do you think this wearing of shoes is? How old do you think is the oldest pair of shoes?
My oldest pair of shoes are in you're going to tell me, aren't you, some history of shoes. I think I was horrified when we talked about food, just how old.
I know.
So I'm going to guess.
I felt so stupid when I went home and I was like, did I just say 3,000 years? I mean, how stupid is that?
But I think we do have this thought going through our head that history begins
when Jesus was born.
0.
But I come from Syria. I come from the cradle of civilizations. I know how long they have been around. So that was just
now
stupid.
The shoe is on the other foot.
Exactly.
And you're asking me the question.
Exactly.
So, but I'm going to guess it's going to be several thousand years BC.
Yeah.
I don't know quite how many. Shall I guess at?
So it was in 8000 BC that the first pair of shoes was made. And
8,000. So actually, that was a
You
very
were very good.
lucky guess.
Nah, it was an
Yeah.
educated guess.
Yeah.
And it was from animal hide. And you know what I find interesting?
Well, do you know what country their shoes were, where it's found?
I did not find
Interested
that.
to know.
That would be interesting to know.
Culturally, where
It
shoes
says-
originated.
Well, it says that the oldest known shoes were discovered in Fort Rock Cave in Oregon, USA.
Wow.
I know, I did not expect that. I expected it to be where I come from.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. The Bible lands and those good old sandals that were.
Exactly.
with
So
it.
no, it's some Native American something. I don't know.
Wow.
Maybe before that even. Did you know that high heels were not invented for women originally?
I did know that, the landed gentry, this was about men being short and particularly, for example, your riding boots.
Yeah.
You had big wedges on the bottom
Yeah.
so that you could A, get on your horse, but B, look taller.
So it's really interesting how like men need to wear wedges or platform shoes or something to give them power, right? They want to
Yeah.
loom over everybody else to
Yeah.
assert their dominance. Whereas women wear high heels not at all for power or dominance or anything like that. They just want their legs to look longer.
Yeah, well, by putting your feet at that angle,
Exactly.
then it accentuates the calves and
Exactly.
makes your legs look slightly longer
Yeah.
and slightly thinner.
So it's all about seduction.
Yeah.
It's about looking prettier for women.
So
It's
for men,
interesting.
it was to make them look taller, whereas actually, in general, women don't want to look taller, do they? They probably want to look
They just want to look more proportionate. Maybe. Exactly.
Yeah.
More feminine.
because you've got the male equivalent of high-heeled shoes are called elevator shoes.
Okay.
And I've had a few friends who've worn elevator shoes.
Really?
And these are like an optical illusion. So if you're a little bit short as a man and you want to look bigger, then you buy these elevator shoes that elevate your height by 2 or 3 or 4, and some of them, sort of 5 inches, by having the sole really thick, but the design of the shoe makes it, you can't see that you're walking on a big
Yeah.
wedge. So, increasing your height gives you greater self-confidence, greater presence or authority, improves your posture. These are all the things that, the adverts for elevator shoes would say. I've never bought elevator shoes, but I can understand why.
I'm glad, because I think it's a bit pathetic. I really think, I'm sorry, I am really sorry
Right,
to
let's
anyone.
put it out there for all our listeners who are wearing elevator shoes.
I don't know if you were an elevator shoe
pathetic,
kind of.
according-
No, that's not what I said. It's a bit desperate. It's a bit desperate. Like when people try to change, like you're dealt certain cards, and I think what would be wise is to try and show your personality through other things rather than try to cheat your way. Put some. I mean, because you're not fooling anyone. I think that's the problem. Like, there's this politician at the moment.
Imagine you're wearing these elevator shoes and you manage to lure some beautiful blonde back to your hotel room.
Exactly.
And then you take your shoes off
And you're like,
it's like,
whoop.
oh, where have you gone? It's quite comical.
So this Ronald DeSantis, this politician, the American, they make fun of him all of the time because of his shoes. He's not fooling anyone; they can see them. And so I don't know. There are really shorter men who are so dominant and so full of character that you don't notice that they're short.
I don't think Napoleon wore elevator shoes. He didn't need to because his personality
was so big.
Danny DeVito does not wear them. No, but I can understand, like so many aspects of, people being either conscious of their height, their weight, or their appearance.
I get that.
People will take any measure they can to rectify it, and you can't go and have cosmetic surgery to make you taller.
I think that's the problem.
So,
is that there's nothing you can do about this. You know,
and
like,
there is a big industry in elevator shoes.
Really?
A lot of people buy them. The smaller amount will buy them, but it's like I say, it's a shame that people aren't happy just to play the cards they've been dealt and be happy being smaller.
I think we should all work on our little things that we're not happy with. Like, there are certainly many things in me that I'm not happy with, that I need to work around and just accept, instead of just trying to hide or change, or, you know.
I think it is one of the few aspects of physical appearance where men do have a thing.
Yeah, because also women make it really hard when they say, "Oh, I will not date somebody who's below this height."
Absolutely.
And now there's this new term that's in culture, a short king. You know, I'm dating a short king. What can I do?
Yes,
it's hilarious.
I'm dating a short king. Yes, get elevator shoes. That's the thing to do. Yeah, it is definitely a swipeable offence, isn't it?
It is.
Oh, this woman is taller than me. That's definitely a no-go.
Exactly.
And because
we need
women
to normalize
also
it.
quote themselves as being this height without heels.
Oh, yeah.
The implication being that when I'm out and about, I'm a lot taller than this.
Yeah.
So it's quite
Very
quite
interesting. Okay.
So,
did you know that some people, when high heels were kind of first invented, I think, if I understood correctly, that some of it was because in Europe there was dirt everywhere in the medieval times and stuff.
Yes.
They used to, like the nobility used to wear them to kind of not get their feet dirty.
I mean, if you think about what was on the streets in those days.
Yeah.
There's not just the rainwater, but there was
All
of
kinds
the
of water.
defecation that was being thrown out of the windows in the gutters, all that detritus, and the horses pooing all over the street and whatever. So maybe I would have worn elevator shoes
I think
then.
so too. I would have as well.
So I have had some, not elevator shoes, but I'm really proud of, back in the 70s was, and you weren't born, but so you won't recognise some of the references, but glam rock. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about when I talk about glam rock. So you think about David Bowie, Motley Hoople, Roxy Music, Elton John a little bit, Freddie Mercury of Queen, Alice Cooper. These kind of glam artists, Iggy Pop, wore amazing costumes. So they would, the nature of it, glam, men wearing women's
shoes.
Well, women's clothing, feminine clothing, a lot of glitter. But one feature of glam rock was the platform shoe.
Oh, I'm looking at them right now.
And platform shoes.
So which one of these did you wear?
Platform shoes. I had some that, well, how can I describe them to our listeners? A very thick wedge platform sole. So it was like an elevator shoe, but you could see it.
Yeah.
And the actual shoe itself was not black, as in black leather.
Yeah.
It was like a combination of red and green and black, sort of all in one, and a little bit sparkly as well. And I was really surprised, because I was probably about 11 or 12.
When you wore those shoes?
That my mum let me have a pair.
Wow.
This is mid-70s, mid to late, 75, I'd say, which is at the height of glam rock in the UK. And my mum never let me have anything like that, but I think that she
sensed how important this was to you.
I think it was more important to her. I mean, they were difficult to play football in
I'm
the schoolyard. So, I was making a sacrifice. But they went with my loon pants. I had big flared trousers as well that went with them. Yeah.
That's funny, because, in Syria we call those Charleston's pants.
Yeah.
Is that a thing, or did we make that up?
No, I don't know that term.
Okay, interesting.
But those
the
big flared ones, loon pants.
Yeah,
I think
they were very popular in the 70s, right?
Yeah. So I had some of those, and I was very proud of them. I never know what happened to them, but I only ever had one pair of them.
And then you grew out of them, and that was it. Okay.
Are there any other shoe fads that you have been lured into?
no
Are you a
fads.
croc person or
Never.
An Ugg person?
Not an Ugg person, not a Croc person. Oh my God, Crocs, I hate them. Sorry to anybody who loves them, but I just don't feel comfortable walking in
Bangos
them.
our endorsement and sponsorship from...
We just lost
Sorry,
our
Crocs.
sponsorship.
Oh, no. I love Crocs.
There we go. No, but I do remember one pair of shoes particularly. When I was in grade 7, my mom took me to the shop and this guy showed me this pair of shoes. I still remember them.
Mm-hmm.
They were beautiful.
Were they like little patent red leather or something?
Not at all. They were black shoes. They had a bit of a heel. Maybe I wasn't in grade 7. Maybe a little older, actually. Maybe 8. Some heel. And they had... so I don't know how to describe them. What did he call them? Quest shoes, he called them.
Quest?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they had shoelaces. And it was for the preparation of Eid. So Eid is the end of Ramadan.
Yeah.
And so it's like this big celebration when you go and visit all of your family and stuff. And so we had new outfits and new shoes.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think I'm going to take these shoes to bed with me. I'm going to put them next to my pillow because they were so pretty. And then I grew out of them. But that's the only time that I actually got very excited about shoes. Usually I don't really care.
I used to like it when Mum used to take us. It was like a once-a-year thing when we were kids.
Yeah.
One year I got the platform heels, but most years we used to buy. Mum used to buy Clark's shoes. So English, very traditional make of shoe.
And they're quite
so
good.
So the English leather shoe was a Clark's, but as a schoolboy, I always wanted to have Clark's Commandos, and Clark's Commandos were special because they usually got some sort of toy in the box.
Oh, really?
But also, because it was commandos, that's like in the army, commandos, there was usually, like in the sole, there'd be a little compass or something like that, so you could see what direction you were walking. Although you couldn't because it was on the sole of your foot.
Okay.
So it wasn't much
You
use
have to
anyway.
keep looking at it.
But I was just excited by...
That's amazing.
I'm going for my new pair of Clark Commandos.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Shall I tell you something? That was never something for me because starting grade 7, so from grade 7 to grade 12, we had to wear army boots. So,
really?
Yeah, I don't know if I ever told you this, but from 7 to 12, we were dressed like soldiers, basically.
In school?
Yes. That's our school uniform.
Wow.
I can show you a picture later. It's hilarious.
It's not big here in Germany, that kind of thing.
No, but we had our khaki suit on, you know, the army belt. We had to have the...
I'm starting to have little palpitations imagining you in your army uniform.
Yeah, we had to wear that, and they had they checked our nails that they were not long enough. This is what happens when you live in a totalitarian regime. So, the shoes were part of that.
And did you have to polish them so they were absolutely...
Yeah, they had to be clean,
Yeah.
And we would also go in September at the beginning of the school year to go and buy our black shoes, and nobody was excited about black boots, and we're like, oh... I'm a pretty woman. Why are you making me wear this to school?
That is harsh, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's Syria for you.
Yeah. I once fell into the fad of, those Converse sneakers, whatever.
They're not comfortable to me. They don't have a lot of support.
I was going to say exactly the same thing. I went and bought myself... I thought, I've got to be down with the kids.
Yeah.
Get myself some Converse.
I mean, they are cute, yes.
Yeah. But they are incredibly uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think so.
Sorry,
they were going.
Sure
they were just writing the email to endorse us, and now we lost them again.
Gosh. I think we've got most chance with Clark's, haven't we?
Yes.
But yeah, I couldn't understand that trade-off between comfort versus trendiness or whatever. Yeah. I'm always going to go on the side of
I think,
comfort.
As you said, you can do that with anything else but shoes.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, I'm now sort of wearing the shoes that old people wear.
Corrective.
Well, no, not today, not so bad. But, I think of like Skechers and these kind of just comfy loafers, hush puppies. I'm quite happy in those because they're nice and comfortable. I'm not dressing in shoes to impress anymore.
Yeah, I get that. I'm going in that direction. That's why I'm wearing a dress and sneakers.
Yeah, that's a good combo. Because your shoes reveal something about your personality.
So you said you found something in psychology.com or something about what your shoes...
Psychology.com, Journal of Research in Personality.
Oh la la.
It's not a very scientific study.
Okay.
And it's kind of blatantly obvious what it says. But a study, researchers asked students to provide photos of the shoes that they wore the most often, and then also to describe themselves and their characteristics. And then people were asked to look at the shoes and then to describe the characteristics of the person who wore them. And, you know, not surprisingly, there was a link between what people perceive is what people were expected, I think. People who wear bright, colourful shoes are perceived to be extroverts, okay? So you would expect that. People who wear worn-out shoes, and I've got a pair of shoes that I just keep wearing because I love wearing them so much.
They're comfortable.
But they are more emotionally stable, or at least viewed to be, because you don't care too much about what people think about the shoes you're wearing, because you're comfortable in your own shoes and your own skin, so you're emotionally stable. Of course, if you wear pricey shoes, expensive looking shoes, then you must be a high income person.
I mean, duh.
Your shoes, practical, affordable, I think that's kind of definition you gave, then you are an agreeable person.
Yay.
If you wear functional and inexpensive footwear, other people will likely think that you're the agreeable type. You're not being aggressive. People who wear pointy shoes, aggressive, very career-minded, branded or expensive shoes, less agreeable personalities.
Yeah, a bit showy.
People who wear shabby-looking and inexpensive shoes are also seen to be liberal thinkers. So if you wear flip-flops, scruffy shoes, you're kind of like a hippie vibe, casual thing.
Yeah.
If you keep your shoes clean, then you are conscientious, well-ordered and well-organised. So all the kind of things I think you can guess. Whether those things are true or not is up for debate.
I mean, we all have all kinds of shoes, right? I have my more expensive shoes, my less expensive shoes. I mean, it depends on when you catch me. But I think in general, I'll be wearing very affordable, kind of nice looking shoes. And I think that does show that I don't care so much about the status.
I just think it's a you said before, a sign of how society's changed, that the number of occasions now where we feel that we have to dress to impress are now at a minimum, aren't they?
Yes, exactly.
I can't believe what I wear for school to teach. I'm wearing my England football shirt now, if anybody wants
There's
to
a special occasion today. It's International Day, that's why.
But I spent most of the year when the weather's cold, I do put a jacket on, like a blazer. But only because I need somewhere to carry my pens and my phone. But I would never have dreamed of dressing like this,
So when you
20 years ago.
Teaching, did you start teaching 20 years ago, or was it?
Yeah, I wore a suit every day with a tie. Yeah, it was school policy. Yeah, I dressed just as formally as I did when I was working in the city.
Oh my goodness! And women? Did they have to wear?
I never dressed like a woman. No, no, I wasn't allowed to.
Only in your free time.
Women were expected to dress smartly.
Okay.
Certainly in
no
no
jeans,
way.
no shorts.
Oh, heavens, no. No, business attire. Yeah. I mean, that's all changed, obviously.
Of course.
And for rightly so. I don't think the classroom, especially if you're working with younger children, you're having to bend down and whatever, that's a ridiculous environment to wear
expensive kind of formal clothing.
Absolutely.
Sometimes I wish we had uniforms so I wouldn't have this decision-making moment every morning. What am I going to wear? What am I going to wear? Sometimes,
well, it was easier when I was working in the city because it was like a uniform.
Yeah.
So Monday I wear that suit with that shirt.
Okay.
So there was no thinking required. Whereas now, which of my vast range of designer T-shirts and sneakers shall I wear today?
So,
actually, the truth is, what's been ironed is usually the decision maker.
Oh, I don't iron, so there we go.
That's not. We could talk about ironing.
We can talk about that one day.
A great episode that'll be.
I know you did some research and found something by Shakespeare on shoes. What did Shakespeare say? I mean, obviously, we didn't find it. I didn't find anything in the Quran about shoes. Did you find anything in the Bible?
Well, maybe you could tell me about. Actually, I don't know whether it's in the Quran. and I don't know whether I'm making a cultural assumption here, but what is it about throwing shoes at people? Is
that the thing with Bush?
Yeah, but is that something that you identify with culturally, that showing the sole of your feet or the sole of your shoe is deemed to be bad
showing the
manners
soles of your feet is not appropriate.
Yeah.
Putting your feet up in people's face. So, for example, I would never dream of having my feet up on the table when somebody comes into the room, even children. Yeah. But mostly you older people. My dad, for example. Oh my God! Imagine me sitting on the couch and putting my feet up in my dad's face when he came into the room. So definitely not.
So was that shoe tossing though? Was that just a one-off, or is that something that you might get a shoe thrown at you if you were deemed to be?
I think throwing a shoe at you is the lowest of low. Yeah, here they throw tomatoes and eggs at people. I think throwing a shoe is even more demeaning.
I don't know if you've seen the video of that happening.
I did, the one in Iraq.
No, was it where George Bush?
Yeah, it was in Iraq, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was
it was an Iraqi journalist.
Yeah, yeah. But what's really funny is that George W. Bush he ducks.
Yeah.
The Iraqi guy sitting next to him tries to catch the shoe.
It's reflex.
That shows you something about the two cultures. Yeah. So interesting.
Yeah. So no, but also speaking of shoes, before we go into Shakespeare, you are supposed to leave them outside. You don't go into the house with shoes because you're going to pray. You're going to pray. Put your head down on the ground. So no, your shoes stay outside. Your shoes are not supposed to be facing up. So if you take off your shoes and some kind of haphazard way and they face up, that's very disrespectful to God because they're facing heaven. They don't. Yeah. You're supposed to put on your right shoe first before your left shoe. You're supposed to inspect your shoes before you put them on, which is a very wise piece of advice because one day I was putting Sammy's shoes on. He was little, he was 3 or 4, and a mouse jumped out of the shoe onto my arm and freaked the hell out of me. He was going to put his foot in it. And so, I totally condone this idea of checking your shoes before you put them on.
I always think about what it must be like living in Australia, where there are these spiders that are deadly, and one of them sitting in your shoe before you put your foot.
I mean, this was a chat in the staff room the other day. Our Australian friend was saying that you should always check your bed and check your shoes before you go anywhere near them.
Yeah.
So, what did Shakespeare say?
Well, I was going to just add to what you said about that sort of cultural traditions for shoes. I was quite shocked when we came to Germany about everybody takes their shoes off. That was new to me. I had to go and buy a whole load of new pairs of socks.
Yeah.
Because all my socks had holes in them. And I felt embarrassed when we went into people's houses. So I actually thought I'd better buy some new socks.
You know what's really funny? It's like when I was in Syria, it used to be kind of like a marker of low status if you took your shoes off and left them outside.
Yeah.
And people who were
like
refined...
The tradesman. You get the tradesman to take off his boots and leave them outside. But your guests, special guests, you wouldn't expect them to.
Exactly.
I never, from my parents' house, never asked people to take their shoes off.
Yeah, and also classy, refined people, they would walk around their house with shoes and, that because that complements their outfit. And that's what I had in my head. And then I came to Germany and I saw that everybody took off their shoes and left them by the door or outside the door even.
And you are asked to take your shoes off.
Yeah.
And it's not like
it's optional. Not an option, no.
Yeah, take your shoes off, leave them out. But anyway, so we got taking our shoes off. If you go to Scotland, shoes are seen as a symbol of good luck, and people hang old shoes above their door on New Year's Eve to summon up good luck for the coming year. The longer the shoes remain above the doorway, the more good luck they will bring to the household.
Awesome.
Scots also believe that keeping an old shoe in the house brings good luck. Whereas Japan is a culture where, rather like Germany, you remove your shoes before entering someone's house.
I have a friend who now works in Japan, and she said it's incredible because you have to take off your shoes before you go anywhere, at work, at school, anywhere. No matter where you enter, you take off your shoes, you leave them outside. Yeah. And she said the amount of house shoes or the slippers that you put your feet in throughout the day is incredible.
Yeah.
In Syria, I just wanted to say before we go on, speaking of shoes, there are special shoes that you wear when you go into the bathroom. Wooden shoes.
They're called
usually.
little wee shoes.
Yes.
I'm going to put my wee pair of shoes on.
No, but yeah, because the bathroom, you should not be using your shoes outside of there, and you also should not be going in there barefoot.
Yeah.
So
Because for a man, being on your shoes is an occupational hazard.
I know.
If you've ever been to a football ground on a Saturday afternoon when you're being jostled by another 20,000 people all wanting to wee at the same time, you can understand why it really does happen.
Yes.
For anybody interested.
Okay.
Yeah, Japan. Apparently floor coverings in Japanese house are made of something called tatami, soft mat made from woven reeds. And because of that, you would not want to walk on it. You'd want to sit on it. The floor is for sitting on, not for standing on.
Standing.
So you have to take your shoes off. Mexico, shoes are placed upside down in the doorway to protect the house from evil spirits.
See, that would be so frowned upon in Syria.
Yeah. So you place, in some parts of Mexico, people place a pair of shoes upside down above the door of their house on May the 3rd. Yeah. This is the Mexican Day of the Dead. And you are warding off evil spirits. Middle East, a tradition that used to be a tradition also in England in times gone by, throwing the bridal shoe. You aware of that?
No.
So in the UK, if the newlywed couple, the bride throws her flowers over her head.
Exactly.
And whoever catches it
is the next one to get married.
Well, in the Middle East, a bridal shoe is thrown at the newlywed couple to bring good luck and happiness.
What if the heel goes into somebody's head?
Another tradition is that you throw the bride's shoe, and if it points a certain way, then the marriage is going to be a happy one, or something equivalent to that.
I've never heard of that.
Throwing.
I wonder which country this is from.
In the UK, or in England, in Britain, not a tradition now, but it used to be the case that when the bride and groom were leaving the church, people threw shoes at them.
Interesting.
And that's why, I don't know if you've seen, but in a UK wedding, people tie shoes to the back of the car.
Yeah, just married,
Just married, shoes on the back. That's instead of having the shoes being thrown out when they weren't going off in a car. In Africa, people bury old shoes as a way of warding off evil spirits.
Okay.
Yeah. Dates back to the 16th century.
Hopefully they're biodegradable.
Yeah, I hope so, yeah. Yeah. So, there's lots of traditions. Have you seen in a lot of a modern tradition now where you see shoes having been thrown over electric wires or telephone wires?
Yeah. What
see
is that?
A lot. There are lots of theories, but none of them I've set. One theory was that it was about drug cartels marking out their territory.
Exactly.
But a study was done in the States of that to found that there was no evidence.
Connection. Okay.
Another is this kind of rites of passage thing, where you bully somebody and chuck their shoes so they can't get them. So it's like either a school thing or a university thing. But I've seen that quite a lot.
Yeah.
And have you seen the ghost shoes?
No. In Germany here we have the ghost bike.
Yeah. So ghost shoes are the equivalent of the ghost bike, where people paint the bike white.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yes.
And put that by the road as a marker of...
I like that.
Yeah. Kind of.
Do you think it's too ominous?
Well, if it's taking my eyes off the road, it's a bad thing and increasing the likelihood of more ghost bikes. So... Yeah, but no, ghost shoes, it's the same principle, but in some parts of the world, particular, I think, Canada, United States, the tradition has now grown up that, white shoes, white sneakers, put by the side of the road as a little shrine. So,
Speaking of shoes, actually, when I went to Budapest, there was the river there that I can't remember, and there were... brass shoes that were like part of
the Danube.
It's the Danube, I think. The shoes there just symbolized the people that died in the Holocaust. And there were lots of shoes in different shapes and sizes, and it was really... was really... it hit really hard when I was looking at those shoes, kind of like there were people here, and now all that remains is the shoes.
The pile of shoes, that has really become an image, hasn't it, related to the Holocaust. I remember at school, a previous school, for Holocaust Remembrance Day, what we did was we had all the students, so 200 students came into the hall, and we got them all to take their shoes off and put them on the stage.
Oh, can you imagine? Oh my God.
So I've got this major, it was a very smelly room by the time it had finished, but it was a really good way of hammering home the point.
Yes.
Every one of those pairs of shoes
belonged to
somebody who was then, massacred. Yeah. Wow. Would you ever put a pair of shoes on the table?
Never.
Why?
Never.
Why?
Because, you walk the streets with your shoes. You would never... I wouldn't even put my feet up on the table.
Yeah. So there's a superstition, never put your shoes on the table. This relates to, not so much about don't put dirty shoes on the table, but even you buy a new pair of shoes,
you don't
put them on the table. Tradition relating to the coal mining industry in the north of England. When a miner died in a colliery accident, his shoes were placed on the table as a sign of respect.
I see.
So you shouldn't put your shoes on the table.
Not anybody's shoes go on the table.
Because, it's a bit like in the theatre when somebody shouts, break a leg.
You can't say it in any other context.
Considered good luck,
Yeah.
If you're in the theatre and you put shoes on your dressing room table, then that is considered by some to be bad luck in the theatre. So don't put your shoes on the table, put them on the floor. Some sources say the origin of this was that criminals were hanged while still wearing their shoes. So something to do with bad luck and still having your shoes on, I suppose.
Interesting.
But there we go.
Have you got any literature for us?
We haven't had any...
no
gosh,
poetry
we're trying
today.
to keep this short.
Exactly.
So we need to finish off then with a bit of literature then.
Yeah.
How about... I'll just give... Shakespeare was... You asked a question about Shakespeare that I didn't answer, sorry. But he was big in shoes. He used shoes a lot as an image. But I'll just pick one. His most famous speech was a modified version of... There's a Jewish proverb. I felt sorry for myself because I had no shoes until I met a man who had no feet.
Oh, yeah, I put that there as well. I wanted to read that to you, but you beat me to it. That is awesome.
I saw that was sourced or
it was
credited to many, many different people. But Shakespeare used a version of this that he modified to do some wordplay. So he said, I felt sorry for myself because I had no shoes until I met a man who had no soul.
Oh, awesome.
Clever.
Very.
Clever.
Yeah.
Clever wordplay with soul, because it was playing
the soles of the shoes and the soles.
Playing on a common proverb to make that. He used, I am indeed, sir, a surgeon to old shoes. When they are in great danger, I recover them. Julius Caesar. Not I, believe me, you have dancing shoes with nimble soles. I have a soul of lead, so stakes me to the ground, I cannot move. So he used the image of shoes a lot, but I won't, they're all quite similar. But he liked them. What about a poem? Should we do one each?
We can.
Have you got one or story?
So I found some poems that were a bit... Because I, being this dark-souled person,
as you are,
no pun intended, I found a few really ominous poems about shoes, and I don't think I want to read them. I would like to tell you a little story from Middle Eastern folklore.
Yes, please. I like them.
So how about I tell you the story and then you read a bit of poetry to us, and then we go and join the International Day.
And then we'll put our shoes on.
So this is about there's a guy that's really famous in Arabic folklore. His name was Abu Qasim al-Tamburi.
Yeah.
Abu Qasim al-Tamburi was famous for being very, very stingy. And so he was famous for his shoes because his shoes were very worn out and very old. And he never changed his shoes, even though he had money. He never went and bought new shoes. He would just go and take them to the cobbler and get resoled or stitched and stuff. And they got so heavy by the end because they were full of this other fabric to patch them up and stuff. And so one day he went he saw his friend on the road, and his friend said to him, "Oh, look, there is this merchant from Aleppo, which is where I come from, who's selling really cheap bottles. So if you buy them, you're going to make a decent profit when you sell them after." So he went and bought those. And then another friend came to him and he said, "There's a guy who's selling rose water, which is very commonly used there. If you buy that and sell it at a later time, you'll make a lot of money." He was like, "Perfect. I'll put the rose water in the bottles and keep it in my house for a while, and then I'll sell them." So he put those on a shelf in his house, and he went to the bathhouse. He took off his shoes, and a friend of his said to him, "When are you going to change these bloody shoes? They are so terrible. One day I'm going to buy you a pair of shoes."
They're like Mr. Bailey's.
No, they're not. And he said to him, "Inshallah," which is just, Middle Eastern's way to say, "Nah, I'll do it another time."
Yeah, whenever.
Yeah. So he takes off his shoes, takes off his clothes, goes to the bath, takes a bath, and then he comes out and he doesn't find his shoes. So he's like, "Oh, my friend must have done this." He finds a really nice pair of shoes, puts them on, and leaves. The Qadi then, who's like the judge, comes out and he doesn't find his nice shoes.
No.
So he finds only Abu Qasim's shoes that were in a corner somewhere, and he knows that this guy stole his shoes. And so he brings him to court. He finds him. The man hates his shoes. He's like, "I hate them." He goes to the Tigris, throws them in the water. I'm telling the story really fast because it's a long story. A guy who was fishing goes and finds the shoes, and he's like, "Oh, I know these shoes. They're famous. They are Abu Qasim's top 4s." So he goes to the house. He knocks on the door. The guy isn't there. So he's like, "Oh, I can see the window is open." He takes the shoes and throws them in.
Yeah.
Where do you think they go?
In the fire?
The shelf that is full of rosewater bottles.
No!
And so he breaks all of the bottles.
No.
Abu Qasim comes back home. He opens the door and he sees this. He's like, "Oh my God, these shoes again. They turned up again." Yeah, he takes them and he throws them into some people's like sewage area. And so that kind of blocks their sewage.
Yeah. Oh no.
So they bring people to fix that. They find the shoes again. They take him to court. And then he has to pay a fine. He comes out. He's like, "These shoes, what do I do with these shoes?" He comes to burn them, and then, but they have to dry first before he can burn them. And so people see him like lighting a fire, and then again he's taken again to the judge. So anyway, long story short, his shoes haunt him forever.
Yeah.
And then he goes to the judge, and he says to him, "Can you please take these shoes and write me a letter that says that I have parted way with these shoes. If they turn up anywhere or cause any harm, I take no responsibility." And so that's what happened.
Is this a parable of the dangers of marriage, with the shoes being?
I don't know.
Like,
how did you relate that to marriage, Mr. Bailey?
it's just a
This is
personal
just
thing.
This is just about the value of not being stingy. This is just telling you that you should, buy new things and not be so greedy.
Yes.
And so this is in the 1001 Nights.
I love it. I must read it because every story you've told is
There are some
hugely
really
entertaining.
But you just beware, there are some really sexual stories in there as well.
Ooh, gosh.
Okay, so how about you choose your best poem to us?
All right. Well, so we talked a little bit there. I mean, there's an old pair of shoes that the guy's trying to get rid of. But we also talked about how it's nice to have your favourites and the shoes that you wear regularly. And, I have a pair of shoes that I'm just so comfortable, I will wear them until they fall to pieces. So this is a poem by a guy called Amos Russel Wells, 1862 to 1933.
We've read a poem by him before, I think.
Yeah, I think he's cropped up before, but he wrote a poem called My Old Shoes, and I quite like the sentiment in there. They are dwellings of comfort and rest, so easily friendlily worn. They have fashioned a leathery nest for each individual corn. By many a brotherly mile they have moulded themselves to my feet, submitting their angles the while till the union is fair and complete. They have known how to want or abound, have cared not for blacking and pride, and have suffered full many a wound with me as their negligent guide. What gay recollections they share of sweet plodding league after league, fern forests and glittering air, and honest, contented fatigue. I have brought them, and they have brought me, thus far, on an intricate road, and though they are homely to see, they deserve a congratulant ode. And I fear me the golden street, the scriptures I would not abuse, will not feel just right to my feet unless I can wear my old shoes.
Aww.
Yeah, that's nice.
It's a nice ode to old shoes. To
Old shoes, the
comfortable
comforts
shoes.
of what you know, and how your shoes mould themselves
I like
even
that.
to the corns on your feet.
Because it's really true. Your shoes
true,
become, that they take the shape of your foot rather than the other way around, which is
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah, I hate that moment when you buy new shoes and you have to go through the pain barrier for a
Yes,
few days
exactly, until
whilst
you
that's
break them in.
happening.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's kind of make or break.
Yeah, it's
Are
true.
these shoes going to make it and eventually fit me properly? And then when they do, it's a marriage made in heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, gosh.
Alrighty.
So even though we picked a smaller topic,
yeah.
I do feel I could talk about shoes for a couple more hours, actually.
I feel, Tony, maybe we need to narrow it down even more. So next week, maybe we will talk about ants' knees.
Ants' knees.
Yes.
We should do something really, really, really precise.
Really random, yeah.
I think we should do bananas.
We got some feedback about our food episode about bananas.
I know.
Yeah, and there was even a story about bananas that I wanted to tell you, and I didn't have time. So maybe we should dedicate a whole new episode.
Should we do
for it.
bananas next week? No.
Let's leave it for a while.
Okay. All right.
Okay then.
Very good. Let's go. Let's put on our shoes.
Yes. And if you have any suggestions for a small thing that we could talk about that you'd be interested
Small thing. Danny DeVito.
Yes, something like that. Let us know.
Yes.
And we will do that then next time.
Indeed.
So,
Great to talk to you again.
you too.
We'll speak next week.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
We hope that you've enjoyed listening to the readings we chose for you today.
And that our musings have ignited your thoughts.
If you've enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and those you think would enjoy it.
If you have any thoughts, suggestions, or any kind of feedback, please send us an email using the email in the show notes.
We'd love to hear from you with the words that make you.